waste to energy. I am going to actually start with a very pleasant task, and that is to start the formalities of forming the project team. And the first task of this is the appointment of the leader of the project team. As you know, UNECE has taken a real leadership in the area of public-private partnerships, and that is very good, and it's allowing us now to see the full global scale of what we're doing. We are doing this in the spirit of One UN, recognizing obviously that UNECE has a bit of a lead. But the work of UNECE and the work of, in the work of public-private partnership really relies on experts. It is absolutely 100% relying on experts. And the area of public-private partnerships now is the interest is spread across a whole spectrum. This morning we discussed guiding principles on people-first public-private partnerships, and we also discussed some of the sectors in which PPP traditionally plays a role, water, transport and various other sectors. Now this sector, waste to energy, is extremely important. So the experts who are congregated around the table are going to play a very, very major part in the contribution to thinking and understanding in the area of waste to energy, which is part of the agenda of the 2030 and also of the COP22, the part of the UN 2030 development agenda. So important for a sustainable future, so important to guard against the risks and effects of climate change. So it's my happy duty now to give to Mr. Chen, who is sitting on my right. I've known Mr. Chen now for a good 18 months. I met him in China, and then I also met him again in Poland when his company, Everbright, his chief executive officer, came to Poland to initiate a waste-to-energy project. And I saw in Mr. Chen something, sometimes I see it in the UN, sometimes I'm not so sure, but a man with great grace and diplomacy. And he conducted himself exceptionally well. I was so impressed. And I am absolutely certain that the work of the project team for the next 3 years is in very safe hands. So I'm going to give to Mr. Chen this certificate confirming that UNECE has agreed to launch the work on the development of People First PPP in waste to energy guidelines, and has appointed Mr. Xiaoping Zhen, the Chief Executive Officer of China Everbright International Limited, as the UNECE Guideline International Team Leader, to be responsible for this project for a period of 3 years. The UNECE appreciates that Mr. Chen joined this project and looks forward to Mr. Chen's contribution to the work of People First public-private partnerships for implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm now going to... If there are any photographers, we would very much appreciate that they now show themselves. I think it's a little bit far to make a photograph. Could we have somebody maybe just in the middle here, or? Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. That leads me to my second duty, and that is to announce the members. Mr. Chen has been in touch and has found a very high-level group of top experts in this in the field of waste to energy. And if I may, I would like to read them out. First of all is Mr. Chen himself. Secondly is Mr. Slavomir Kowalewski, Mr. Mr. Sheru, yes, Miss Charlotte Griffiths, who's a colleague, Charlotte, I can pronounce your name okay. Richard Ornitz, who I know very well. Rennie Guicciardi, yes, well done, sir. Shu Hyun, Raphael Jardim Cavalcante, well done, Raphael. Athanasios Burtsalas, Hisaka Kimura, Yu Yan, Sun Hao, Yan Jingming, Harold Inslee. So these are the members. Obviously, some of you have signaled your appreciation, and thank you very much indeed. So obviously, I'm sure if there are members who are wishing to join then, but that is an excellent crew on a ship that is going to be navigated now by Mr. Chen. I will now pass the floor to you, sir. Thank you very much.
尊敬的汉密尔顿先生，各位专家学者、女士们、先生们，下午好。
Gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very honored to be assigned as the People First PPP Waste and Energy Leader of the expert team. And today, this is the first time I am playing the head to conduct this forum as an expert. And the topic of this forum is quite interesting. It is also the current, practical, and a very urgent problem. What we are discussing today, we have 5 different aspects. Number 1, how are we going to resolve also on the garbage issues in the refugee camps. Number 2, how are we going to have this zero emission? Number 3, how are we going to resolve also the hazardous issues of the garbage? Number 4, in the developing countries, how are we promoting also the garbage generating technology? Number 5, whether there will be small-scale mobile garbage installations to resolve some of this issue. For example, for the remote areas children, to provide lighting and also so that they can learn and study in the evenings. And today, we are very honored to have invited experts and professionals coming from all over the world, academics among them, government officials, international organization representatives, and also on the professional and technician energy and management, consulting and also investment development experts from these energy sectors. They will work together with us to explore the above mentioned issues. Now, I will also brief you a little bit introduction of the experts on this head table. Mr. Omir, and ever since 2006, he has been already continuously for the mayor in the city in Poland. He is also the first one promoting on the PPP partnership from Poland. And we also have Mr. Xu coming from China. He is the chief engineer of the largest urban construction, and he is also an expert in the energy sector. He has been always cited as the kind of practitioner in the garbage incinerating. And then we also have another gentleman, Mr. Gui. He is coming from consulting management company CEO, doctor in economics, and he has been always developing in the PPP's projects and also finance.
再有是理查德先生，
And then another gentleman coming from United States,
公司的
CEO
CEO，
from Italy.
公司
And this company is dedicated in the infrastructure
对于基础设施的投资
on the investment development of the infrastructures. The other gentleman is Madame Charlotte.
透过欧
She is also
华总部的官员
an official from the UN Geneva concerning on also on the energy and also renewable energy and also cyclical energy economies.
是来自
And the other one gentleman coming from China, Mr. Chai,
建设运行
he is also an expert in the construction and operation, especially on the solid waste and also the energy conversion. He has a wealth of experience. And then Rafael, he is educated in the civil engineering. He's also an auditor in the Brazilian Federal Court. He is also appointed as the
反欺诈、反腐败部门。
anti-corruption works in Brazil.
今天论坛的题目
And the topic for this forum
采取台上
will be having an
绝对互动的方式，
interactions with the head table together with the audience in about 1.5 hours. It is quite short in time, but hopefully everyone will take this opportunity
的机会，
and to have this rare opportunity to speak out,
见人，知者见智，
collecting your wisdoms and to have your openness and to exchange your opinions and comments, enabling us to jointly explore
变大问题的。
the minor issues from the major problems. Now,
我们进入第一个
we are now coming into the first
问题的讨论，
issue,
一是
which is
如何解决
how we going to resolve also the garbage in the refugee camp. Let me invite first of all
第四
Madame Charlotte from UK
报告。
to brief us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. And first of all, my sincere congratulations to you on your appointment. It will be a great honour to work with you on this work on developing PPPs on waste to energy. So, good afternoon. It's a great honour for me to have been invited to participate in this forum, and I want to congratulate all the colleagues involved, particularly Jeffrey, on organising such a fantastic event, and also to the City University for hosting it. I work for the Sustainable Energy Division of the UN Economic Commission for Europe, and a key goal of our division is delivering on this 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. And I really want to just quickly pick up on a point that was raised in the last session by James Stewart. And I think he raised a really important issue, and I can only say that it's very much mirrored by the director of the Sustainable Energy Division. I'd just like to quote him, Mr. Scott Foster, and he says, "In fact, what is needed for sustainability is to reinvent the energy industry as a service industry. This is what we have seen with the revolution in telecommunications. It's a revolution that's not finished, but that has already unleashed enormous waves of innovation. We don't consume energy, we consume the services provided by energy, such as the lighting we have here, mobility, heating, and so forth. If energy could be transformed the way telecoms have, then the business model for delivering sustainable energy for all would be self-evident." So it's great to see that there is like-minded thinking in the way that the energy industry works. So just to the topic of the session today, I really wanted to introduce you a bit to the work that we're doing. A country and a city that we're working with closely is Amman, and it's called the Compassionate City. There's a photo there of the mayor of Amman, His Excellency Mr. Biltaji, and he's somebody that's very familiar with the challenge of refugees. He's a former refugee, and he actually rose to be mayor of Amman. He was the mayor from 2013 until he retired in March this year. Amman is a city that's had to welcome the influx of many, many refugees. and it is facing enormous challenges related to that. In the energy division where I work, we're actually working closely with the city on its primary resources related to phosphates in Aqaba, related to potash in the Dead Sea Valley, but we're also working with them on secondary wastes, secondary resources resulting from the wastes from those industries. As I mentioned, Amman is a city that's being challenged by the influx of refugees. Jordan is one of the top 10 countries welcoming refugees. And we can see that Amman had a population of 5,000 inhabitants in 1900. This rose to 2.5 million in 2010 and 4 million now in 2017, and this is largely due to refugees. The infrastructure in Amman is not able to cope with the waste and other issues that are being generated by the influx of all these refugees. And when we talk about refugees, actually just over 80% of refugees choose to live in cities where they can, because it's a way for them to be more closely associated with what they knew from the city before they were displaced. Where possible, refugees choose not to live in camps, and that's not always possible. But this creates a huge problem and a challenge in terms of waste and managing the waste. And we see that mounting municipal waste creates a number of important challenges, largely health-related. Public health is a huge issue related to wastes, but also safety challenges. Research has shown that in dirty neighborhoods, you see increased violence and crime. And this is becoming a problem in what was known as the compassionate city of Amman. And most of the refugees have been placed into the east of Amman, which is the poorer part of the city. And you see there increased tensions because of the waste, because of the health and social issues created. You see tensions between the refugees and the inhabitants, the local inhabitants of Amman. We're actually working with Amman in trying to help them resolve the issue of a huge waste pile that is located about 15 kilometers from the main city. And this is creating a huge impact on the Zarqa River Delta, which is where 50% of the inhabitants live. We're actually trying to work with them to recover the secondary resources, to recover the waste material. We're also looking to work with them on waste-to-energy projects. Just to put things in context, the Special Envoy of the Secretary General based in Iraq, he was recently in Geneva, and he highlighted that the two most pressing global challenges are refugees and migration. And we can see that 65.3 million people have been displaced worldwide. Of those, 21.3 are refugees, and they are located either in camps or in cities, and as that's shown there by the 100%. And if we think about the challenges this creates of these migrants, it's a challenge on public health, on safety, security, the social issues, social challenges, and the environmental challenges of refugees and their relocation in cities and in camps cannot be underestimated. And that's why I really commend the fact that we're having this panel today on how to convert waste to energy. And I think if we look at waste to energy projects, they really help to deliver on the triple bottom line of economics, of social challenges, and of environmental challenges. The global population in 2050 is going to rise to 9.7 billion people. And if we look at that, the 70% of those will be located in cities. If we do the maths, that's equivalent to 235 cities the size of Greater Paris. The challenges of waste are enormous. They cannot be underestimated. And this is where we need to innovate and really look to come up with technological solutions. We're going to really have to look at managing the cities through innovation and through technology. And this is where I think the Sustainable Development Goal number 9 on industry, innovation and technology is really going to play to the fore. We need to think that municipal solid waste will rise from the current 1.3 billion tonnes per year to 2.2 billion tonnes by 2025. And today, about $400 billion a year is spent on waste management. Those are huge figures, enormous numbers. The social challenges cannot be underestimated. And if we look at solutions, producing electricity is only one reason to burn municipal solid waste. But the volume of the waste can actually be reduced by 90%. That's a figure that cannot be underestimated. If you think of most solid waste is placed into landfills, and you look at cities such as Amman or refugee camps, most of the waste ends up being placed into open, uncontained, unregulated landfills. The landfills are often placed very close to the camps, within 3 kilometers or closer. And the residents of the nearby communities, they're affected by that because of the health implications. Very often those landfills are unlined, allowing the waste to leach into the ground and surface water. You see that many of the local communities and the migrants, they're looking to gain a small wage, a small dollar, just by reusing and recycling what they can find in those waste dumps. And that creates enormous health issues, sanitation issues. And then very often, in order to reduce the volumes in those landfills, they resort to burning, and that creates huge untold environmental stresses. Greenhouse gases increase. When you're burning organic waste, that creates methane emissions, and methane emissions have a global warming potential of 21 times greater than carbon dioxide. So the impact on climate change is increased. So I know we're going to be talking about social acceptance, and many say that the biggest problem with waste management is the word waste. And in the UN, we're actually advocating that the word waste should only be used as a last resort. We should be talking about reducing, recovering, reusing, recycling, and then only use waste. Because of the public acceptance issues, waste has such a bad connotation. And interestingly, just yesterday, I was approached by the International Standardization Organization, ISO. They're actually working now on terminology, and they're looking to redefine waste and waste as a resource. So how can you define, and so that people understand that waste can actually be a valuable resource? I'd like to just briefly introduce you to work that I'm in charge of in the ECE. And this is developing something called the UN Framework Classification for Resources. And this can offer a valuable opportunity to really help governments, the private sector, financial institutions to really understand the value of projects. This system is operational for solid minerals, oil and gas, renewables, and now we're actually working on applying it to anthropogenic resources and also looking at energy from waste projects. It's something that Jeffrey highlighted, that the work that's been done on PPPs is largely through experts. And this is very much the case from the work that we've done on the UNFC. This has been fully developed by experts who have done it and worked with the UN on a voluntary basis to develop a really robust and valuable product that can help in delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals. it's a powerful tool that can assess the wastes and turn them into resources. It can help us differentiate projects based on maturity, technology, and also on the socio-economic aspects. It's the only tool of its kind that actually accommodates environmental and social considerations. In terms of the UNFC, we really want to use it, and I'm hoping that I can work very closely with Mr. Chen on how we can help incorporate the criteria into the framework classification, develop some case studies and guidelines so that we can develop a win-win situation. Just in closing, I wanted to raise two gaps that we see. So countries have signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals, to the agenda, and to the climate change, the Paris Climate Change Agreement. However, they've made these commitments, but there are gaps between those commitments and where we are today. There's also gaps between those commitments and what in reality we need if we're to deliver on the 2030 agenda. As we see that energy underpins the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we're looking to really see how we can close the gaps in the energy sector. And we're organising an energy ministerial conference together with the other regional commissions in Kazakhstan in Astana in June next month, actually in a few weeks. And because of the importance that we see on the energy from waste issue, we have organised a half-day session focused on this issue to really see how it can fully help delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals, 6 in particular Sustainable Development Goals. And I invite all interested participants to come and talk with us and really see how we can progress the discussions here today on this important topic. Thank you.
难民是一个弱势群体，如何解决他
people,
们
the
面临
minorities in our world, and how do we really solve their horrible living conditions? And just now we have heard Charlotte had gave a lot of introduction and a lot of advice, and we applaud her again, Charlotte, for your excellent introduction. Now we welcome Mr. Lenning from Switzerland.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my first part speech will be speechless. So I kindly ask you, if you're interested, to look at the slides. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the waste world of refugee camps. Now it's okay. Thank you. When I was asked to deliver this speech, I remembered one of my first projects. It was in Nicaragua. It was also my shortest project. We were entrusted to make a feasibility study for a waste incinerator to incinerate the municipal solid waste of the city of Managua. We were a team of experts, and our first thing we did, we went to the landfill and looked at the waste. And our waste expert said, "Gentlemen, it's over." Because he recognized that the quality of the waste was far away from being able to be burned. So the project was over. When I went later to refugee camps for other purposes, I encountered the same situation. The same type of landfills, dumps, and the same type of waste. So the situation we are finding today is we have a low calorific value of the waste and a high density. Both are enemies of incinerations. Finding number 2, we are not talking about little settlements. If we are talking about refugee camps, we are talking about cities. The biggest one is the Kakuma camp in Kenya, 180,000 people. Number 10 in the hit list is the Mishama camp in Tanzania, 60,000 people. If we're talking about dealing with waste in refugee camps, we are speaking about big problems. Waste management is difficult too because of the limited resources for collection and treatment, because of the difficult, let's say, urban structures. You have seen the camps before. Because of the different socioeconomic conditions. You have camps in Europe, you have camps in Africa, in Asia, but different people, different behavior, different attitudes towards waste. And of course, due to climatic conditions. But the general principles of waste management are applicable for all situations. You all know them. The best thing is prevent waste, second reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, and dispose. I've put recover in blue because that's the topic we are going to get a little deeper in. Oh, sorry. I think I need an assistant. What are the UN agencies doing, those agencies that are dealing with waste problems? Of course, it's the UN Agency for Refugees, but it's also other agencies like UNECE or the WHO. They have developed guidelines, WASH guidelines, for treatment with WASH problems. What means WASH? It means water, sanitation, and hygiene. I had a close look at these, that manual and the second manual that's still in the pipeline, and I'm of the opinion these are very good guidelines. They go down till fact sheets how a camp manager can deal with waste, making analysis of the situation and so on. Before I had this appointment, the question was raised if there is a need of making another guideline for waste in refugee camps. I would say, according to my opinion, it's not necessary. Those UN organizations with the participation of experts have done a very good work, and I think there is no need to do more. As always, the problem is lying in realization. Now let me talk about the positive effects of waste treatment. Collecting waste, separating, gives a job to refugees and is a source of income. Composting of waste will produce compost and leads to an improvement of soils. And there are some health aspects that have been mentioned a little bit before. That is, the reduction of landfills will reduce poisonous gases, groundwater pollution is reduced, bad smells are reduced, and health threats like rats or flies or lead to a reduction in infection risks. So we should think that the waste management in refugee camps has a very high priority. This isn't the case. Why? Are there too many factors that are against waste incineration? I think one of the main factors is that waste hasn't a top priority in the management of a camp. I think nutrition, housing and shelter, water sanitation, health and education are higher in the priority list. At least that's my speculation. Second point, refugee camps are designed temporarily. And that is, as I understand it, a very important point. Nobody wants to say we are building a refugee camp just for 30, 40 years. Waste treatment is capital intensive, and we all know that the UN is not really a rich organization. And furthermore, as I said, calorific value of waste and high density are not really helping to make this solution feasible. Nevertheless, with regard to the size and the applicability, there are technical solutions. And I will just comment on a project that I am actually doing in Bulgaria. It is a waste incinerator for hospital waste. It's quite a simple technology, and this incinerator can also incinerate waste from municipal sources. You see here on this picture, you get an impression that's not a big thing, that's not too complicated. You can put normal containers into the feed for the incinerator. And the biggest one of these incinerators can be used for a city of 40,000 people. This is the incinerator. Here you see how it works, the waste coming from the left. But if you are looking at the flow diagram, you see on the left side here, that's the incinerator part, and sorry. And on the right side, there's the flue gas treatment. So this is a technology that is not too difficult, but it still needs a lot of skills. Now, just one word with regard to money. The incinerator we are building is the smallest one. It's about 4.8 tons per day. It costs just the electromechanical part about $5 million. That's not too much. And I would estimate a big one with 17 tons per day servicing a town of 40,000 people would cost maybe about $20 million, not including the civil works of the foundations and of the building. This is another type of incinerator, small incinerator that serves 40,000 people. It's a mobile device, and if UN is looking forward in closing down one refugee camp, they can move this one easily to another one. And now, I talked a lot, and the prospects don't seem too nice, seem to be too nice. Nevertheless, I think big inventions have been done when crazy guys did the impossible. Therefore, I'm suggesting to make a pilot project. Won't be too costly. It will be in phases, like always. And the first phase will only consist in analyzing the waste with regard to heat value and density, and the ability of a camp to produce and collect the waste, because those incinerators need to be operated on a continuous basis. And if the waste is missing, you have to shut them down, and to start them again, which costs a lot of money. So, if UN takes just a little money for analyzing waste and collection abilities, they will definitely know if incineration in refugee camps is a no-go, or if there is some hope. Thank you.
雷尼先生以他在乌拉圭、肯尼亚的亲身经历，
This is his personal experience in Uruguay and Kenya on the practical experience of the prevention and also diversified solutions. And this is indeed a very clear idea because of the time constraint. I will now come into the second discussion on the second topic. How are we going to resolve also on this NIMBY effect? Mr. Tsai will brief you on the NIMBY issue. And good afternoon, everyone. First of all, really thank UNECE PPP Center together with the Hong Kong CityU to organize this seminar. And here, I am going to brief you on the solutions and overcome the NIMBY effect. In other words, on the solid waste to energy, how are we going to incinerate the wastage. I have also here a presentation in PowerPoints. This is the installation we have already completed, and this is an interaction with the neighborhoods. In China, the current situation on the waste management is that we are having a fast growth of the rapid municipal solid waste, the MSW, and we have very limited on the landfills, and this is in a kind of what we call the MSWs created in each of the cities, so the waste is unable to affect our environment together with our living quality. Currently, the Chinese has already, we're talking about 8 billion tons with 540 kilometers altogether, and this is a 10% growth per year of the MSW. This is currently the major growth of the major cities in China. We're talking about 6% in average on the growth rate of the municipal solid waste. And currently, there is a problem, what we call the cities besieged by waste. Up till 2015, the MSW has an annual output of 258 million tons. The whole country, up to 2020, it is expected that it will be more than 300 million tons per year. And 2/3 of the 668 cities in China are already besieged by the solid waste, and 1/4 of the landfill is unable to be improved. And for the industry, waste to energy is also very fast, and so far we believe that the time is proving it is a feasible and reliable and safe approach. In the economic well-developed area with less lands, cities will take priority on the incinerating and decreasing also on the landfill, changing waste to energy, and this is also maximizing and also non-hazardous and reduction, reuse, and harmless treatment of the waste. For the up to 1988, China has already built the first one incinerator up to now. In 2015, we have altogether 254 waste to energy plants with a daily capacity 230,000 tons. With so many incinerating facilities, it is difficult to secure a location and to build the project. In other words, this is what we call the NIMBY. This is unavoidable dilemma. How are we going to let the MSW in a city, in a destination to be realized, because people are concerned they will be having hazardous safety and also health and also for the environment, economy. Many of the cities are having this kind of dilemma of the locations and also the project realization. NIMBY is also not in my backyard. So waste is generated by everyone. Nobody wants to it in the neighborhood. And this is really a big problem. Starting from 2006, it is obviously in Beijing that having this kind of NIMBY, it has been already 11 years, it is still a big problem for China, what we call the NIMBY effect. So how are we going to overcome this effect? For the last couple of years, with 13 years proving that we have our own endeavor. Overcoming the NIMBY effect is that, first of all, we have to prove and we have to be guided by the government. There will be also public participation, and the enterprises will have to also be involved. So the solution of NIMBY is to start with the MSW. This is not an urban project or an environment project, but also on a livelihood which is related to everyone. So in order to resolve this issue, it has to be in each of the countries in all of the world, they are having the same issue, so long as the government is taking the responsibility to improve and also to let the public participation in the government, in this case, and the enterprises will have raised the bar to have a more practical way, and through so many years of our experience, it can be resolved. In other words, we believe that the public and the private and the enterprises should have a kind of a mutual trust, understanding, and support to create also the dynamics in promoting the projects. So it should be guided by the government. There should be a credibility to break through the limbic, and first of all, to reinforce the regulations to regulate all over the country with so many years of experience. And first of all, of course, people will veto against, but there should be effective communication from the government to see that enterprises have already built up some of the operations within the cities, and the people say, well, okay, that is okay, but not in my backyard. But there will be conditions that we can negotiate. So governments, when having the tricky issue, when trying to resolve, so long there will be effective communication looking for the responsible enterprises, and then people will agree at the end of the day. The government will be also having some public service installations and quality resources, for example, hospitals, schools, and caring homes, employments to be next to the backyard of the people, so that incinerators can be also relocated, and this will be agreed by the local residents, so long as they can promote the local commitments. So other than guided by the government, we believe that there will be also the completion and improving the laws and regulations, transparency, and also have possible disclosure, and also on the responsible good technologies, and also enterprises to be responsible for the construction, investment, and operation. Then the public participation, we have to respect the public's right to know and supervise, or, as it was mentioned earlier, they should also visit the site and having these pilot plans, and then what they see, what they feel, will also dismiss their concerns to complete the communications, to having also some feedback channels. On the public participation, we believe that we should also, before the project, they should listen, for example, public hearings, or there will be different kind of cities, different kind of levels, and based on the different needs, different batches, to let everyone to understand and realize. In terms of the corporates, they will also have their own self-disciplines and to enhance their credibility from the high standard design to have the construction and operation to make sure that it's safe and also complies to the laws, and to have transparent, open information on the management, then they can be accepted the governance and supervision by the government and also the public. Now, in terms of the corporate governance, it is through the innovation and low emissions, incineration, and also on the advancement of the technology bringing to the enterprises to incineration replacing on the landfill. With new technology, introducing the higher standards, minimizing the cost, so that it will also, new technology standards will have also on the cost reduction to have also industrial trend. And then we have some excellent enterprises emerging in China. So in terms of the investment in the municipal solid waste, other than our advanced technology, together with all our installation equipment, that everything can be made in China, costs will go down. Investment-wise, will take us a lot of opportunities. A while ago, we happened to bump into a company from Spain. They said in South America, they have already some of the projects, and European and technology are quite expensive. They heard that maybe it's applicable in terms of the cost in South America. So other than China, investment in China, lately we are also having the One Belt One Road to export. We have also some experience in the also the cost advantage. Now a little bit about some of the typical examples here, what we have done in the past. In the NIMBY effect, to summarize, it is a joint effort with a kind of a benign interaction with the government and the public to build up also the credibility. Of course, the most critical one is on the credibility, then it's much easier to solve the problem. Now, a few examples in Changzhou, the other one is Nanjing, and the other one is in Hangzhou, some of the typical cases. Now, this is in Changzhou, which has already reached the EU standards, and it's been already more than 10 years ago, and this has also becoming a tourist attraction. Some of the pictures showing also on the project, and this one is from Nanjing, having a very good result. This is from Nanjing as well. And then this one is coming from Hangzhou. It's under construction. Now, again, this is a CCTV's news coverage.
强烈的反对，被称为邻避效应，也成为各地的大难题。而浙江杭州余杭区的垃圾焚烧厂建设平稳推进，前不久顺利实现了项目主体完工封顶。杭州是怎么做到的呢？最近，在杭州余杭区中泰街道、房车营地、山顶酒吧、精品民宿，一个个旅游休闲项目在春风中破土动工。 然而，就在1年前，人们还因为这里要建垃圾焚烧厂而唯恐避之不及。当时的杭州与其他城市一样，一直面临垃圾围城的窘境，垃圾填埋已解决不了问题。
那么，如果说再不上垃圾处理设施的话，那么杭州市将发生生态危机，由旅游城市变成一个臭城。
经过反复论证，专家认为垃圾焚烧是解困的最佳途径。 焚烧厂选在了余杭区中泰街道一个废弃的采矿场， 可一听说自家后院要建垃圾焚烧厂，周边几个村子一下子炸开了锅。
没有办法来理解为什么要放在这儿呢？因为这个东西我觉得有很多地方可以放啊。
面对周边居民的担忧，采取简单的行政命令，靠抹嘴皮子让村民发扬风格，显然行不通。杭州市选择让事实说话，组织了82批4000多人次赴广州、南京、济南等地的垃圾处理厂进行考察。
我去了江苏啊、广州啊，都去看了，就是现有的垃圾焚烧厂，让老百姓就是放下包袱。
耳听为虚，眼见为实。考察回来后，政府因势利导，召开了项目论证会，让村民代表提意见，像垃圾存哪里、怎么烧、二恶英和飞灰怎么控制、如何处理，方方面面问个底儿掉。清楚了老百姓的想法，政府也就有了明确的工作方向。
一个，这个项目下来了以后，就是老百姓担心他们的健康权；第二个的话呢，担心这个区域的发展。
对群众的健康隐忧要对症下药，同时更要化解对这个地区的发展隐忧。于是，杭州市专门给中泰街道拨了1000亩的土地空间指标，用来保障当地产业发展。117项改善生态、生产、生活环境的实事工程已经启动71项，还计划投资20.8亿元，在附近打造一片城郊休闲公园。以前人们争着往外迁，现在蒋余城所在的中桥村已先后回迁200多人。当年闹得最凶的蒋余城也当起了义务招商引资员。
好，时间到了，时间关系。Well, because of the time, I will stop here for the video. I'm sorry about that. The NIMBY effect is a global common issue faced by all countries in the world.
蔡先生
Mr. Tsai, from the practice of Chinese side, and he talked to us about the choice of location, etc. And he still has a lot to talk to us about, and we'll have more chances in the futures. And now we move on to Richard from America. He will talk to us about how to solve this issue.
NIMBY.
Thank you. I have a presentation, but I'm not going to use it.
He will talk to us about how to solve the NIMBY effect.
40 pages long. If anybody wants a copy, I'm very happy to pass it out. I'd like to start out by asking a question. First of all, I want to congratulate Jeffrey. Thank Mr. Chen for the chance to be here today. I was privileged to be with Jeffrey at the start of this noble UNECE PPP group. We had a baby, Jeff. It's now become quite an adult, thanks to your leadership. Thank you. Mr. Chen, thank you for hosting us today. I'd like to ask everybody in the audience, how many people have children? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, I'm privileged to have 5, and every time I speak, which is fairly often, I ask them, what should I do? What should I say? And 3 were home. The first one, who's a boat captain and an adventurer, he said, Dad, you're going to talk about waste. It's simple. Just take it to the dump. The second one, who is an investment banker at Morgan Stanley, he said, Dad, don't do that. Burn it and charge money for the power. And the third one, who's at McKinsey as a business consultant, he said exactly what our colleague just talked about, but don't burn it in our backyard. So children tend to see things pretty straightforwardly. Who are we? Infolinks Capital is a boutique merchant bank. We have about $3 billion of our own capital to invest, and we have access to about $60 billion around the world from companies like China Life all the way through major U.S. financial institutions. We're privileged to have as our partners the Kennedy family and various other global organizations, and we have offices in New York, Boston, Lausanne, Frankfurt, Geneva, and also London. We're investor developers. That means that we are the real money, but we go in early. Most of the bankers, most of the financiers come late after the deal is bankable. Our expertise is to make a deal bankable, and then we either buy it ourselves or we sell it We try to roll up assets, so we own a portfolio of assets, and then we monetize the cash flow. That is our business model. I'm very, very proud to do this across infrastructure. The team has closed $260 billion of projects around the world. That's not waste to energy. That's all sectors of infrastructure, but including waste to energy. I'd like to make a couple of general comments about waste and waste to energy, and then land the helicopter on the specific question that's been asked. First, as has been shown for China, throughout the world, the whole gravity of waste is growing. There's a projected increase of about 1.42 kilograms per person in the world per year. That is a staggering sum of waste that is accumulating. It needs to be disposed. The problem is becoming worse, not better. Secondly, the failure to deal with waste is a big problem. We've talked a little bit. You've got all forms of disease. You have cholera, you have tetanus, you have just mountains of health problems across many sectors of disease that, if waste just lays, as some of the pictures show, creates a very stable environment, unstable environment, and it's worse in the lower income countries, in some of the developing countries, than the developed countries. The issue of not in my backyard is a very big one, and I'll come back to that at the end to touch on some other additional points, but it's very, very real, right down to my son's comment. There's a very interesting thing about waste. From a revenue point of view, you have two revenue streams. One is tipping fees. So somebody has to pay to dispose of their garbage. And the other is, if you create energy, you can sell it. And selling it to the grid or to the power company in whatever environment can bring profits. Additionally, we also believe that in places like refugee camps, you can just produce hot water and energy, hot water and steam, not energy. It's less complex, it's less expensive, and you're still providing social good. As is quoted on the bottom of this, I was privileged to be asked by President Clinton to serve as an ambassador. My wife turned it down, but nevertheless, I think he is one of the smartest people around. And he's characterized, I think in the quote here, the same thing that's true about waste to energy. There's not a problem in the world for which there hasn't been an answer. The issue is, how do you make it scalable? And particularly waste to energy, as you're talking about trying to do this in rural areas and developing countries, how do you make a project scalable? I'm going to show you one project in Perth that we're doing, one of the first and largest projects in Australia, because to date, people have just taken it to the desert and dumped it. This will be quite a large project, over $400 million. The next issue is, how do you get sources of capital, particularly in rural areas or emerging markets where you can't make money? And I believe, as I've said in some of the questions this week, that there is a combination of non-for-profit investing coupled with for-profit investment. There are companies in the world who really want to do good and who are spending money. Whether it's Google or Hewlett-Packard or some of the other big companies, they are putting money into impact investing. And by combining for-profit investment with non-for-profit, you can get what I call leveraged social capital, and you can bring that social capital to rural areas for waste. So where does all this go? And the question is, how do you get the money to the table? And I'd like to fast forward just to show you a couple slides. You can see there's a lot of money going from developed countries into the developing nations. It's 57% is private investment. There's a lot of private capital that can be used for waste to energy. There's a conflict in the current system that the foundations and the investors conflict with the impact investors. Okay. This is solid waste management in developing countries. These are the problems that are there. We've talked about some of them. They're limited resources, inadequate levels of service, lack of legislation, limited know-how, indiscriminate dumping, poor environmental and waste awareness. Europe is doing very well. There are landfill taxes. Countries have done, like Sweden and Switzerland and Austria and Germany, done well. The U.S. is market-driven. We don't like to ban landfill, and we don't like taxes. This is a terrific example of not in my backyard. This is a power plant in Scandinavia, and it was done by one of our partners that is an architect. If you look at the plant, you'll see the trees on the front side of it. That is a ski hill. So we've taken an energy plant, we've made it neighborly friendly, and produced a ski resort on top of an energy plant. Here's the model I'm trying to get to. Okay, this is a classic contractual framework. So this is our project taking place right now in Perth. And you can see that we've got Martin Power, which is a major producer of technology, of equipment. They're German in base. And then we have the municipalities and the regional grid utilities and the public authorities and the landfill owner. And then we have Veolia involved as the expert on the waste side. What we have to do to make it bankable is make sure that the waste supply contracts match the power purchase agreement and that the permits and concession side support the landfill owner. The ash depository contract, ash is a very big problem in many countries. So we work very hard to make the contractual framework support the financial structure. This is a classic approach. And here you have the equity and the debt. And you see the sources are superannuation funds, private equity funds, international insurance companies, industry suppliers, and other investors. The debt includes commercial lenders in Australia, Southeast Asia, Europe, the multilateral institutions like the IFC, the ADB, the EIB, the new AII. And that's the process that it goes through from a financial point of view. Okay, how can we expedite this? This is a waste energy project in the U.S. Here's the new model. It's called resiliency. And this is the last slide that I want to talk about. There are many different types of technical solutions, whether it's combustion or gasification or pyrolysis. No one is necessarily right. Some are better than others. There is no wonder solution, no matter what anybody wants to tell you. And different models have different costs in different environments. Different waste streams are necessary for analysis. We're very privileged. Everbright is a leader in the technology and designing and doing this. So we like to take an approach of, because it costs us $2 to $4 million to bid a project, to go into a city or a state and say, give us a bucket of projects. So we would say in China, for example, give us 10 waste projects in the early stages of conceptualization. And we will form a project development company. You, the state, or you, the city, put in $500,000. We will invest all the rest of the money, which could be several $1 million. And then we will look at the financial viability of those projects. What's the waste stream? What's the offtake? What can we get from the grid and the power purchase price? What can we get from tipping fees on the waste? And then we will decide if the project is economically feasible. If it's not economically feasible, we stop, we turn over the plans. If it is feasible, we have the right to do it. This is an example in the United States, in Newport, Rhode Island, where we've done this. We had to bid against 52 companies to get it. We now have $3 billion of projects, and you can see that there's a long list from a microgrid to a hot water and steam plant to an urban ag plant to cybersecurity, and there will be a pyrolysis plant. That's the recovery agreement that we've already signed to process the waste. So we have a commitment from the city to pay a certain amount as tipping fees, and then we have the right to burn the waste, and we're working now on the combustion form. These are the tonnages. This goes into what was said by our German friend, the economic analysis of it. And that's a more detailed chart of how we get to what we process and what we don't. So, in summary, this is another representative from one of our competitors. Basically, you go from, in this case, processing farm waste to processing to storage to a power plant client offtake. The bottom line on all of this is that waste is very economically capable, but it is environmentally difficult because of the environment and stakeholders. As Everbright has said, it's extremely important for stakeholder outreach to bring them to the project, to get their buy-in and so on. So we're very proud that the United Nations is setting standards for waste, and we look forward to Mr. Chen's leadership, and we stand by with a little bit of capital to do good projects. Thank you.
看来NIMBY效应是个非常热
We
门的
have
话题。
seen that NIMBY effect is a very hot issue. There are a lot of things that people would like to say. We would like to thank Richard for his excellent speech. And now we go into the third topic. So how do we solve the dangers that would be brought by from the incinerations? And we invite Rafael from Brazil to give us a talk on this.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for this question, Mr. Chen. I think it's a very cute and opportune issue because I was seeing the pictures that was showed up for Mr. Rene, and I thought that it was in Brazil. We have exactly similar situations there, with people catching up the garbage just to take lack of livelihood. It's not a basic livelihood. Of course, these mountains of waste are a social, financial, economic, and environmental problem. And in Brazil, our role as elders in the public sector is oversee how the public money is being spent. Of course, it's because our role is improve the public administration and try to improve the quality of the life of our citizens. So when we're talking about the Brazil is committed to reach the 2030 agenda, and as an external control institution, it's our job too, taking now to look at how our government will reach these goals. We're talking about this, we're talking about the goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And either to goal 12, responsible consumption and production. Just in another overlook, just in São Paulo, our biggest city, have around 20 million people there. We're producing daily 18,000 tons of wastes. It's like a full field, 30 football fields a day. In Brazil, we're producing solid wastes in around 5,000 cities, 5,000 municipalities. The thing is to rightly dispose of this solid wastes. You're talking about very distinguishing situations in a budgetary issue, talking about. Never treat this waste will never be for free. That activity must be affordable, feasible, doable. So considering that mountains that all of you have seen, I try to share some experience with you what Brazil is doing. In culturally more in Brazil, there are more than 17,000 sanitary landfills. Our data indicate that today, 47% of all solid waste in Brazil are designated to sanitary landfills. 23% is stocked in controlled landfills, but more than 30%, however, is spotted up in dump sites. Of course, you have to resolve it. What have we done? Try to specifically answer the question how to solve the dangers of waste in mountains. So, in 2010, Brazilian Congress has approved for initiative of our executive branch a new law of solid waste policy. The legislation was issued to offer an overarching approach and planning tools to grant the necessary strides to handle with environmental, social, and economic problems begot by inadequate management of solid waste. I think that the three pillars of this policy, it's not just a law. The main goals are improve the sustainable habits. It's not solely to treat the waste. It is about to educate people to take more responsible consumption. It's about education, above all. And upgrade the tools to recycle and reuse, and of course, treat to adequate destination of this non-useful rejects, but just rightly destinate of just non-useful, because a good part of the waste are useful, are recyclable. So, how to reach these goals in this policy? The National Solid Waste Policy Law created such important goals to absolutely abolish the open-air dumps. It was established a deadline for it. The deadline is over in 2 years, in 2014. What is that? To achieve this objective, it demanded the municipalities to plot their own managed plan of solid wastes, all of these 5,000 municipalities. It comprises measures to imply selective collection, organic residuals treatment, education programs, extend to cut down the waste production. And of course, a plan to include the garbage collector. Their labor is living up, recycling, picking up some economic advantage of the waste. Federal government, in hand of this planning, finance the cities to build up appropriate sanitary landfills and all alongside measures to foment recycling and sustainable destination to these residues. You're talking correctly much about even PPPs to deal with this problem. But to invest in it, they have to take some information. You have to planning first, gather all the necessary information, even to afford the opportunity for our partnership, our private partner. That's what we're talking about when we're fomenting the plans of the municipalities. Offer opportunities for the market, their partners to resolve this problem. The National Treasury put aside in 4 years $400 million USA to foment these plannings and activities for our municipalities. The number of municipalities that present from 2010 has doubled. We had a kind of mix of soft controls with this law and hard controls. How to foment in one side, but how to create some enforcement to municipalities right treat the wastes. What is that? From 2014 up to the present and along years, the mayors who not have a plan and are wrongly disposing their wastes could be penalized with a criminal law. Today it's a crime wrongly dispose the waste in open field dumps. There is another pillar of this law, beyond these soft and hard controls, to foment and control the right disposal solid waste. In 2010, the 2010 landmark regulation also deployed a sharing responsibility between all waste generators, like fabricants, importers, traders, citizens, and of course, government agencies. Produce less residues and take care of good management. Of course, it's a role of all society, not just for the government. So, the fabricants and traders, for instance, are required to create a specific logistic to receive and provide a right destination for some special wastes in the cycle of production and consumption. Private sector was compelled to provide their plans to manage the waste in the cycle of production. Government negotiated with a specific sector of private activity to adopt and imply the plans of reversal logistic. Up to present, there are some chains of reversal logistics being set up, like plastic lubricant oil packets, sodium mercury lamps, household equipment. All these wastes are very, very hard to dispose and treat. General package, disposal of medicaments. Of course, the national policy foresees some other measures like education, energetic utilization of wastes, indexes for recycling, etc. But let's go to the numbers. I think that the best proof are the results. I don't know if you agree. What's the situation today? More than 90% of urban residues collected in the country before 2010 are being rightly collected and treated. Against the former situation, 80% of municipalities had open-air dump sites. Until 2015, more than 2,000 municipalities have declared own and managed plans. Before 2010, it was 0. Between 2010 and 2014, the number of municipalities with approved planning for solid waste managed has doubled. More than 60% of municipalities with selective collection programs we have today, against 0 before 2010. And 166 municipalities being participants of joint ventures in collecting and treating garbage, against just 81 in the former situation, much of them doing PPPs. I'd like to just to finalize. It's not just a law, the Brazilian policy for solid waste treatment. I think they have achieved a good strategy to balance the hard and soft controls, how to foment, how to enforce, in a light, equally balanced strategy Doing that, I think we had great results in planning. I think always that's the key, how to rightly plan, even to make that some partners. How to think in this activity like an affordability activity. And third, I think is the most important, education. Education, that's always a long-term strategy, but it always never can be content. Thank you very much for this opportunity. That's it.
感谢拉斐尔先生介绍了巴西
Briefing on the solid waste treatment in Brazil. Now, we'd like to invite the mayor from Lua, Mr. Sraomir, to brief us.
Dzień dobry. Szanowni Państwo, witam Was bardzo serdecznie.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to you.
Nazywam się Sławomir Kowalewski, przyjechałem z Europy Środkowo-Wschodniej, z Polski. Mam wrażenie, że jestem jedynym przedstawicielem Europy.
My name is
A jeśli nie Europy, to Unii Europejskiej.
My name is Sławomir Kowalewski. I came here from Central and Eastern Europe, from Poland. I have a feeling that I'm probably the only representative of the European Union now.
Kilka słów o sobie. Od 1 grudnia 2006 roku jestem burmistrzem miasta Mława. To 30-tysięczne miasto pełne przedsiębiorczych mieszkańców z prawie 600-letnią historią.
Since the 1st of December 2006, I have been the mayor of the city of Mława. Mława is a city with nearly 600-year-long history and 30,000 inhabitants who successfully develop their businesses.
Jako burmistrz jestem otwarty na współdziałanie z biznesem, outsourcing usług i partnerstwo publiczno-prywatne. W formule partnerstwa publiczno-prywatnego w Mławie obecnie budowana jest komunalna oczyszczalnia ścieków z udziałem kapitału francuskiego.
As a mayor, I'm open to cooperation with business, outsourcing of services, and public-private partnership. In the city of Mława, a new municipal sewage treatment plant is being constructed at the moment, and it is a PPP project with French capital.
Szanowni Państwo, jak się czujecie? Mam nadzieję, że doskonale tak jak ja.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are you feeling? Are you feeling as good as I am?
Pokonałem odległość kilkunastu tysięcy kilometrów, by spotkać się z Wami.
I have traveled several thousand kilometers to meet you.
Z ludźmi, którym tak jak i mnie leży na sercu ochrona środowiska. Patrząc na Was, słuchając Was, utwierdzam się w przekonaniu, że warto było tu przyjechać. Wiem, że mamy wspólny cel. Troskę o środowisko, o bezpieczne i przyjazne warunki do życia na Ziemi dla nas i następnych pokoleń.
I came to meet you, people who care about the environment the same way I do. Looking at you, listening to what you say, make me convinced that it was really worth coming here. I know that we all share the same objective. We care about the environment. We care about safe and friendly living conditions on Earth for us and for future generations.
Reprezentujemy różne kraje, mamy różne doświadczenia, ale ciekawość, okazja do wymiany doświadczeń, chęć nauczania się czegoś więcej zgromadziła nas tu, w tym wspaniałym miejscu, sali konferencyjnej Uniwersytetu w Hongkongu.
We represent different countries, we have different experience, but it was curiosity, a good opportunity to exchange experiences, willingness to learn more that brought us here to this amazing venue, Conference Hall of the University of Hong Kong.
Serdecznie dziękuję organizatorom za zaproszenie mnie do udziału w tym wydarzeniu. Szczególne słowa podziękowania kieruję pod adresem wielkiego przyjaciela Mławy, pana Chen Xiaopinga, prezesa potężnej firmy China Everbright Limited, która to w 2016 roku zakupiła większościowy pakiet udziałów mławskiej firmy Nowago z branży gospodarki odpadami.
Many thanks to the organizers for inviting me to take part in this event. My special thanks also go to a great friend of the city of Mława, Mr. Chen Xiaoping, the CEO of China Everbright International, a large company which in 2016 acquired the majority shareholding in Nowago, a Polish company from Mława engaged in waste management business.
Być tu z Państwem to dla mnie ogromny zaszczyt i wyróżnienie.
It's a great honor to be here with you.
Szanowni Państwo, wiemy, że dynamiczny rozwój gospodarczy, wzrost poziomu i komfortu życia społeczeństwa ma też skutki uboczne. Nadmierna eksploatacja zasobów, zanieczyszczenie środowiska, odpady, choroby.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know well, the dynamic economic growth and improvement in the living standards of the society also have some negative side effects, such as overexploitation of the resources, environmental pollution, waste and diseases.
Liczba i różnorodność produktów wprowadzanych przez producentów na rynek oraz przyjęty model konsumpcji czyni każdego z nas jednym z poważniejszych wytwórców odpadów. Pozbywamy się szeregu różnorodnych odpadów bytowych, poprodukcyjnych, budowlanych czy też osadów.
The number and the diversity of products placed on the market by the manufacturers and the patterns of consumption we have adopted make each one of us a big producer of waste. We dispose of many kinds of materials, including household waste, industrial waste, construction waste, as well as sediments.
Wyrzucamy zużyte ubrania, meble, sprzęt AGD, torby plastikowe, butelki, baterie, lekarstwa, wszystko to, co przestało nam być potrzebne, jest zużyte czy zepsute. Niby odpad przestaje być naszym problemem, ale staje się wielkim problemem dla środowiska oraz gospodarki, czyli praktycznie dla nas.
We throw away used clothes, furniture, household appliances, bags, plastic bottles, batteries, medicines, everything that we find useless, worn out or broken. We throw them away and it seems that the waste is no longer our problem. But in fact, it becomes a big problem of the economy and for the environment. So it's something that concerns us all.
Każdego dnia, przez tygodnie, miesiące, lata wspólnie usypaliśmy potężną, zagrażającą środowisku górę śmieci.
Over the last weeks, months and years, day by day, we have been building up a huge mountain of waste, very dangerous for the environment.
Według szacunków Głównego Urzędu Statystycznego w 2014 roku w Polsce wytworzono ponad 141 milionów ton odpadów, w tym ponad 10 milionów ton odpadów komunalnych, co daje 268 kg na jednego mieszkańca naszego kraju. To i tak mniej niż wynosi średnia ilość odpadów komunalnych przypadająca na jednego mieszkańca Unii Europejskiej. Tam jest 481 kg.
According to the Polish Central Statistical Office, in 2014, the amount of waste produced in Poland was approximately 141 million tons, including 10 million tons of solid municipal waste, which is 268 kilograms per capita. This figure is still much lower than the average amount of municipal waste generated per capita in EU, which is 481 kilograms.
Natomiast w Mławie 373 kg, a to oznacza, że jesteśmy zamożnym społeczeństwem, skoro taką ilość wyprodukowaliśmy.
And in the city of Mława, this figure amounts to 373 kilograms, which would suggest that we are a wealthy society.
Wszyscy stawiamy pytanie, co z tym zrobić.
So now the question arises, what should we do about it?
W Polsce działania regulujące postępowanie z odpadami określa ustawa z dnia 13 września 1996 roku o utrzymaniu czystości i porządku w gminach. Była wielokrotnie zmieniana. Między innymi z powodu wejścia Polski do Unii Europejskiej, a tym samym obowiązującego nas, Polaków, i szybko zmieniającego się prawa europejskiego.
In Poland, the fundamental principles governing waste management are laid down in the Act on Maintaining Cleanliness and Order in Communes of the 13th of September 1996. The Act has been amended several times due to Poland's accession to the European Union on the 1st of May 2004 and frequently changing EU directives.
Pomysł Unii Europejskiej na ograniczenie ilości odpadów i jednocześnie ochronę zasobów naturalnych to głównie selektywna zbiórka odpadów i recykling.
The European Union idea of minimizing the amount of waste and preservation of natural resources is based on selective collection of waste and recycling.
Z ogólnej ilości wytworzonych odpadów komunalnych w Unii Europejskiej 31% unieszkodliwiono poprzez składowanie, 27% poddano recyklingowi, 25% unieszkodliwiono termicznie, a 15% poddano kompostowaniu. Skrócimy. Kolejny sposób w Unii to termiczne przetwarzanie odpadów, spalanie.
Another method of waste treatment is incineration.
Następnie Unia Europejska preferuje wdrożenie pakietu dotyczącego budowania gospodarki o obiegu zamkniętym, program Zero odpadów dla Europy.
There's another idea of EU, and it is a decision on the implementation of the package related to the development of circular economy, a zero waste program for Europe.
Wiem, że w tej dyskusji wciąż pojawiają się jednak pytania.
I know that there are many questions that arise during the discussion.
Czy jest możliwe zbudowanie, stworzenie, zorganizowanie społeczeństwa tylko społeczeństwa, które nie będzie produkowało odpadów?
Is it possible, is it achievable goal to get a waste-free society?
Ile nas ten mechanizm będzie kosztował?
How much would such a mechanism cost us?
Jakie będą efekty do poniesionych nakładów?
What would be the relation between the results and the costs incurred?
Jak możemy efektywnie z korzyścią dla środowiska wykorzystać wytwarzane przez nas odpady komunalne?
How can we effectively utilize the municipal solid waste with the best outcome for the environment?
Jaka może być rola partnerstwa publiczno-prywatnego w rozwiązaniu problemu gospodarki odpadami?
And what would be the role of PPP projects in solving problems associated with waste management?
Zasygnalizowałem tylko problem z punktu widzenia Polski, Unii Europejskiej. Dziękuję serdecznie za uwagę. Pozdrawiam.
I only wanted to suggest these problems from Poland's and EU's perspective. Thank you very much for your attention.
感谢市长先生。看来我是一位不称职的主持人。不声不响，时间
MC,
过了。
you know, that is not very responsible. Our time has fled very fast. We still have 2 more topics and we still have 2 more speakers. However, due to time constraint, we still have other meetings. We have to stop here. I'm very sorry. I think after this round, we could have further discussions among ourselves. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Hamilton to give us a conclusion on our forum for this session.
O'clock last night, so I have been a little bit difficult to sometimes keep my eyes open, but I was thoroughly excited by the tremendous experiences, absolutely fascinating. And thank you, Charlotte. I mentioned Charlotte simply because she's my colleague here, but I didn't know she was doing such great work as I now know, and that shows sometimes what we have to do in the UN. We have to meet up. But it's an excellent panel. Sadly, we have to go now because I have to go and moderate another session. But Mr. Chen and to all the colleagues, very hearty congratulations for some excellent projects and some excellent ideas. You'll be busy now for the next 3 years, and we look very forward to your results. I think a round of applause is now due. Thank you very much. And also to our gentleman here, I'm sorry we didn't have time. Thank you very much.
下面我们对香港城市大学为论坛举办。
We would like to thank City U for their great organizational work and their hard efforts. I'd like to announce that this is the end of this session. Thank you very much.